Now, chapter 3, part C. Last time we saw inertia, that is the tendency of a body to remain at rest or to be in uniform motion, unless acted upon by a force. That was Newton's first law. Now, the second law is based on linear momentum. Linear momentum is nothing but it's the product of mass and velocity of the body. Mass into velocity is momentum. Momentum is denoted by small p, small alphabet p. So p is m into v. SI unit, mass is kg, velocity is meter per second. So you can call SI unit of momentum as kg meter per second, or you can write it as Newton into second. Why Newton into second? Newton into second because if you just see what is Newton? Newton is kg meter per second squared. And when you multiply that with second, you will be left with kg meter per second. So that is why you can say it is kg meter per second can be written as, instead of kg meter per second, you can write this as kg meter per second squared into second. This kg meter per second squared is mass into acceleration, which is force, and force is measured in Newton, and Newton upon Newton into second. So you can say it is Newton into second. Why? Because this kg meter per second squared, this thing kg meter per second squared is Newton, and this second out here is second. When you cancel second squared and second, it becomes kg meter per second. So instead of writing kg meter per second, you can also say Newton second. This I had given you in the chart in measurements chapter, and I had told you that time also that most of these formulae which you are seeing there in the chart of derived units, fundamental units, you had seen 9 fundamental units in SI system, candela and all that, and then you had made a bigger chart and seen the formulae of some 14 different quantities and their derived units, which depend on fundamental units. So this is a derived unit. Kg meter per second squared is Newton into second, which is meter per kg meter per second. You can use this. This is simple. You can even use this if you remember. CG's unit is gram and velocity is centimeter per second. So gram centimeter per second, or same way you can call it as dyne into second. Dyne, which is the CG's unit of force. Dyne into second. So now looking at this formula, it is very evident and clear that there are just two factors that affect momentum of the body. Momentum is directly proportional to mass, and momentum is directly proportional to the velocity of the body. So simple explanation, if you take a bullet, not a gun, if you take just a bullet and throw it on someone, it is as good as throwing a chalk on someone. The person won't die. But if the same bullet, same mass, same thing, you fire it from a gun, then it comes out at a massive speed or at a massive velocity, so the person can get grievously injured and it could be even fatal. That is because suddenly the velocity is much more. And when velocity is more, what is the quantity that is affected? Momentum. High momentum that bullet will have. Same way, I have told you this in the last part also about inertia when I was explaining. Now let's say your friend is cycling and coming towards you at 5 km per hour speed, very slow. So he is coming at 5 km per hour speed and he is coming on a cycle. You can easily stop it because that cycle is itself not having great mass and the cycle speed is also less, so you can stop it. So that means the cycle has less momentum because its mass is less. But at the same time, instead of cycle, if a truck is coming to you at even 5 km per hour speed, very slow speed, you will not dare to stand in front of the truck, because if the truck knocks you down, you're dead. So that's the difference. The difference is because in this case the mass of the truck is more. So mass and velocity both affect momentum. Greater the mass, more the momentum. Greater the velocity, more the momentum. So next we will see about change in momentum and what can cause change in momentum. Now in this case we are seeing change in momentum. Change in momentum delta P. Now anywhere where you use this triangle symbol delta, this delta is also called as del or delta, and it is when it is written in front of any quantity, it means some change in that quantity. Change in that quantity. For example, delta P means change in momentum of the body. So momentum is changing. Delta stands for change. Delta M means mass of the body is changing. Delta M. Now you may think, how can the mass of a body remain change? There are examples where mass of the body also changes. For example, let's consider a truck. Let's consider a truck filled with water and it is moving on a road. So now if due to some leakage from the pipe behind, the water is dripping off, you will find that the mass of the truck is going on decreasing because not the exterior of the truck but the quantity inside the truck is getting on the road, it is falling off. So since there is change in mass, so you can say that is delta M. Delta before M stands for change in mass. The change in velocity is very simple, the truck speed can increase and decrease. So delta stands for change. I am not told only increase. Change means change can be higher, it can be less. That means the change speed may decrease or increase. It could be retardation. So delta P equal to delta MV. So delta P means change in momentum, and this delta with a bracket and MV written inside means the change could be either in mass or in velocity or in both. So this equation, change in momentum is due to change in mass or velocity or both, is valid in all cases. This particular equation is valid for all cases because the change in momentum has to be either due to change in mass or due to change in velocity or because of change in both. So if this equation is given and you are asked under what condition this particular equation is valid, you can say that delta P is equal to delta in bracket MV is valid for any case. It could be due to change in mass, it could be due to change in velocity, or it could be due to change in mass and velocity both. So change in momentum P may be due to change in either mass or velocity of the body or due to both change in mass and velocity. Now look at this first relation again. Delta P is equal to delta MV is always true. That is what I told. Can be used anywhere. Because if momentum is changing, either of the two or both are changing. So it can be used anywhere whether mass is changing or whether the mass remains constant. Now this second equation, look at it, it is important. In the second equation, delta P is only due to change in velocity. That means the mass of the body has to remain constant. So in that case, this is applicable only for smaller changes in velocity. The mass of the body remains constant only if delta V, change in velocity, is less than 10 raised to 6 meter per second, or delta V is much less than the velocity of sound in air, velocity of light in air, that is 3 into 10 raised to 8 meter per second. So if the velocity change is greater than that, greater than 10 raised to 6 meter per second, then it has been scientifically found that the mass of the object in such great speeds does not remain constant. It increases slightly. A small equation for that is given in concise, but all that is not there in your syllabus. You just have to know that if the change in velocity exceeds 10 raised to 6 meter per second, then the mass of the object does not remain constant, it will increase slightly. For example, you have subatomic particles like electrons rotating in their orbits around the nucleus. They are rotating at very high speeds, greater than 10 raised to 6 meter per second. So at those speeds, the mass of the object does not remain constant, it increases slightly. So when the mass increases, you can't use this equation, you have to use the other one, in which velocity and mass are both changing. So this particular equation, delta P equal to m delta V, means the change in momentum is only due to change in velocity. Mass is constant. That can be used only if the speed of the object or the change in velocity is less than 10 raised to 6 meter per second, or this double arrow means far less than c, where c is velocity of light in air, that is 3 into 10 raised to 8 meter per second. It is seen that if the change in velocity is greater than 10 raised to 6 meter per second, then the mass of the body increases slightly. So when it increases slightly, then you have to use the other equation, that is delta P is m delta V, which means both mass and velocity are changing. So I hope that is clear. You can listen to this once again to just get it 100% clear. Question based on this has been asked in 10th standard board paper. Earlier, even this part, momentum and change in momentum, was included along with force in standard 10 physics portion. So question based on this has been asked. So I will discuss that question next. So now, page 62 to 70 of the Anish tutorial textbook, you will find question and answers of this part, that is part C of laws of motion. These question and answers are most important because most of the questions given in concise, the answers have been given there. So you have to go through each and every question and understand it. So now question 3, since I had told you that this has been asked in the boards in 10th standard once, this is a very important question. Question 3 given there. The question says a body of mass m and velocity v is acted upon by a force. Write an expression for change in momentum in each of the following cases. We've just learned this now. Change in momentum means delta P. Delta P is change in momentum. First case is when velocity is far less than velocity of light. This is less than means much less than velocity of light, or 3 into 10 raised to 8 meter per second. So you know that when the velocity is far less than the velocity of light, the mass of the body remains constant. So when mass of the body remains constant, the change in velocity, momentum, is due to change in velocity alone. So therefore we write this, delta P is m delta V. This means only velocity is changing, the mass remains constant. Why is the mass remaining constant? Because velocity is far less than the velocity of light. How do you know? Because it is given. When velocity is much less than velocity of light, the mass remains constant. So we can't use the other formula, delta P is delta in bracket mv, that can't be used. That would mean that mass is also changing. Here, it is only velocity that is changing, mass is constant. Now the second case, V, an arrow is shown and then C is shown. This means that the change in velocity or velocity is reaching the velocity of light. This means velocity tends or equals to the velocity of light, that is 3 into 10 raised to 8 meter per second. Now if the velocity is equal to, the velocity of the body is almost equal to velocity of light, in that case you know that the mass is not constant, it is increasing slightly. So when mass is increasing, even the velocity is increasing, the change in momentum is due to both mass as well as velocity. So delta will be written and then in bracket m and v will be written. This means the change is both in mass and velocity, or it may be change in mass or change in velocity. So this universally accepted in all conditions, that formula will be written for change in momentum. Change in momentum is equal to change in In this case, velocity is changing and mass also does not remain constant. Both are changing. Last, they have given another specific case when velocity is very less than velocity of light. But it is given specifically in that question. In this case, the mass is not remaining constant. Usually you know that the mass remains constant, but I had given you an example. Let's say a truck is moving on a road, the velocity is changing, it is accelerating and going, but at the same time that water delivery truck has got the pipe open behind, due to which water is flowing out. So obviously mass is also changing. Velocity is changing, mass is changing, both are changing. So when both are changing, even if the velocity is much less than the velocity of light, in this case both are changing, so we write delta in bracket mv. Usually, if only this was given, then we will assume that mass is constant. That is the first case. Mass remains constant. And the change in velocity was only resulting in change in momentum. So I hope this is very clear now. This question has been asked for 3 marks, 1 mark for each part. And you don't have to write very big explanations, you just have to write this much to get that 1 mark. Why? Mass is not constant, mass will increase, so both are changing. Why in this case both are changing? So that is why you put delta, because it is specifically given mass is not remaining constant. And in this case there is nothing given that mass will remain constant, so we have learned that when the change in velocity is far less than velocity of light or less than 10 raised to 6 meter per second, then mass remains constant. So change in momentum is only due to change in velocity. Now we saw what is change in momentum. Now we will see the derivation of forces ma, or what is rate of change of momentum. Rate of change of momentum or acceleration. Now that derivation has been asked a couple of times in school exams. Generally in the board exam in February, derivations are not asked, like this questions are asked, 1 mark questions. Specific answers, 1 line or 2 line, 1 sentence answers. Easy. Derivations, but sometimes are asked in school exams. So maybe in your term exam in September, October, you could be asked derivations. And for that reason, the next derivation that I am doing is important. I told you this question could be asked in a school term exam. Sometimes they ask 3 or 4 mark derivation. So show that the rate of change of momentum is mass into acceleration. Hence derive the mathematical expression of Newton's second law. So we are taking, let m be mass of the body. U, it stands for initial velocity of the body. V stands for final velocity of the body. So now we haven't done chapter 2. So let's say that the truck is initially at rest. So then U will be 0. Initial velocity is 0. After some time, let's say after 10 seconds, the velocity becomes V, that is 10 meter per second. So then V is 10 meter per second. And in that case, you have to know that 0 to 10 meter per second happened in how much time? 10 seconds. So V minus U upon T gives you acceleration. That is 10 meter per second minus 0 upon that 10 second time. So the acceleration is 1 meter per second square. That's just an example because we didn't do chapter 2. So I am just explaining what is acceleration. It is change in velocity upon time, or final velocity minus initial velocity upon time. So in this case, momentum is mass into velocity. We know that momentum is the product of mass and velocity. So in this case, there are two different momentum. Initially, one momentum, and then after some time, a second momentum. So initial momentum is mass into initial velocity. So initial momentum is mass into U, and final momentum is mass into V, that is mass into final velocity. So initial momentum is mu, and final momentum is mv. Here the object is not moving at a constant speed. It had a certain initial velocity u, and then it had a different final velocity v. So the body is having some change in velocity which is happening in some time t. So there is acceleration. The body is not moving at a uniform or constant speed. So initial momentum mu and final momentum mv. So then what is change in momentum? It will be final momentum minus initial momentum. So it is mv minus mu. So m you can take common and write v minus u. Now rate of change of anything means upon time. So here rate of change of momentum means change in momentum upon time. Rate of change of momentum is change in momentum upon time. So rate of change of momentum, this delta p only stands for change in momentum. So when it is divided by t, this delta p upon t is change in momentum upon time, which is called rate of change of momentum. So then if you have divided the left hand side by t, you have to divide the right hand side by t. So there it will be m v minus u upon t. So what have you done? This equation, both sides, you have divided it by t so that it becomes rate of change of momentum, and there it is m v minus u upon t. But this v minus u upon t is nothing but acceleration of the body. Final velocity minus initial velocity upon time in which that change in velocity happened is acceleration. So now if you substitute this as acceleration, you will get delta p upon t is m into a. It is mass into acceleration. So you can say what is delta p upon t? Rate of change of momentum. So rate of change of momentum is mass into acceleration. Rate of change of momentum is the product of mass and acceleration. Now we have only reached the first part. Show that rate of change of momentum is mass into acceleration. That's the answer to the first part. We haven't yet defined Newton's second law. Newton's second law is very simple. It tells you that the rate of change of momentum, this thing, is directly proportional to the applied force. That means if an object is at rest and if you push it hard, the change in momentum will be more. And if you push it gently, it will have a slow change in momentum. So that is only what Newton said, that the rate of change of momentum is directly proportional to the applied force. So that's what we have written here, that the rate of change of momentum is directly proportional to the applied force, capital F. Now when we join these two things, third and fourth, and look at this, we can say that this rate of change of momentum, because it can be replaced by force, and then we write proportionality sign, because he didn't say that it is equal to mass into acceleration. Newton said that rate of change of momentum is directly proportional to force. More force, more rate of change of momentum. So we have used the direct proportionality sign. Now when you use a proportionality sign, if the proportionality sign has to be replaced with an equal to sign, you have to use a constant of proportionality. For example, we have already done simple pendulum. You had written in the simple pendulum that time period is directly proportional to root L. Then you wrote time period is inversely proportional to root G. Combining those two, you wrote time period is proportional to root L upon root G. And then we changed the formula. We replaced this proportionality sign with equal to sign. And then we wrote 2 pi. 2 pi, mathematically, mathematicians sat and worked along with scientists on this formula. So they understood that they took so many different values, and they saw that when 2 pi is written there, then the proportionality can be replaced by equal to sign and the rest of the equation remains as it is. Same way last year you would have learned kinetic energy is directly proportional to mass and directly proportional to velocity squared. But then suddenly it became kinetic energy is equal to half, then mv squared. So you put half. And what was that half? That was the constant of proportionality. Now in this case, unit of force is chosen so that K is 1. That means scientists found that the value of K is 1. So when we write instead of K1, the equation becomes F is equal to mass into acceleration. So F is m into A is the mathematical expression of Newton's second law. So derive the mathematical expression of Newton's second law means F is equal to m into A. And this is not valid every time. It is valid only if the mass of the body remains constant. That means the change in velocity has to be less than 10 raised to 6 meter per second or far less than the velocity of light. So this derivation and this final expression F is equal to ma, that is force is mass into acceleration, is important for your school exams, especially Gopal Sharma school. Sometimes those teachers ask the derivation. So you have to learn this derivation and the mathematical expression. There will be sums based on F is equal to ma using acceleration is v minus u upon t. So there are sums based on that. So first we will do the theory of the second part, we will continue with that and then we will go to the sums. So now if you get the question under what condition does the expression F is equal to ma, that is mathematical expression of Newton's second law, hold true? The answer for that is mass should remain constant. If the mass is constant, only then this expression is valid. And for mass to remain constant, you have to write velocity should be less than, very much less than, far less than the velocity of light, that is c. So those two conditions has to be written. F is equal to ma, or instead of a, you have shown delta v, means change in velocity upon time. So a is nothing but change in velocity upon time. So even if you are asked, when does this expression hold true? This expression is nothing but F is equal to ma only. Same thing it is. Delta v upon t is a. So it will hold true under the following two conditions, that is the change in velocity or the velocity of the bodies are much less than the velocity of light. When you are talking about velocities, here it means final velocity and initial velocity. There is change in velocity. And second, the mass of the object remains constant. So the mass has to remain constant. This is asked, this is very important question. This has been asked many exams, even in the boards, for 2 marks. Conditions when Newton's second law is applicable. Next is define Newton's second law. So Newton's second law definition also has been asked many times. It is very simple. According to Newton's second law of motion, rate of change of momentum of a body is directly proportional to the force applied on it. That means on the body. And the change in momentum takes place in the direction of the applied force. So the change in momentum, if you push someone in this direction, he will go in that direction. If you push a person in opposite direction, he will go in that direction. So the rate of change of momentum depends on the force. That means if you give him a greater push, he will go flying. So he will go at a faster velocity. And it takes place in the direction of the force. So according to Newton's second law of motion, rate of change of momentum on a body is directly proportional to the force applied on it, and the change in momentum takes place in the direction of the applied force. Yeah, so now the next question is, these questions have also been asked in the board. That is to draw the graphs. All three won't be asked, any one of them may be asked. Draw the graphs for Newton's second law based on that acceleration versus force graph when the mass is constant. So the first term, acceleration versus force. So acceleration will be on the y-axis and force will be on the x-axis. Always remember the first word is on the y-axis and the second is on the x-axis. So you know force is directly proportional to acceleration. Why? Because mass is constant. You just learn the expression F is equal to m into a. So if mass is constant, force is directly proportional to acceleration, and all directly proportional graphs are straight line graphs inclined to both the x and y axis. So it's a straight line graph, acceleration versus force when mass is constant. Similarly, the second graph, force and mass. So now force is on the y-axis and mass is on the x-axis. So even in this case, force is directly proportional to mass. Acceleration is constant. So if, let's say, you have a car which is broken down and you want to push the car, you have to apply certain force. But instead of the car, if you have to produce the same change in speed in a truck, you have to use much greater force. So when the mass increases, the force applied has to increase. It is directly proportional. So therefore, the graph is again a straight line graph inclined to both force and mass, or y and x axis. Now the third one, acceleration and mass. Now force is constant. Obviously you know that if the mass is great, then the acceleration produced will be less. So mass high, acceleration less, because you are not applying more force. The force is constant. So for a constant force, the acceleration and mass are inversely proportional. Newton's second law, force is m into a. So constant, force is constant upon m is equal to a, or acceleration is inversely proportional to mass. Now this inversely proportional mass is a curve and it is not reaching zero. It means that a large amount of, hardly any acceleration will be produced if the mass is very high, or it tends to zero. So you have to draw this curve. It is as per what is given in concise. So these are the three graphs. They are important. So now you have the definition of SI and CG as unit of force. You have the formula F is equal to ma, which is the mathematical expression of Newton's second law. If you substitute the values in SI, you get 1 Newton is 1 kg into 1 meter per second squared. So by definition you can say 1 Newton is that force which produces an acceleration of 1 meter per second squared in a body of mass 1 kg. Simple. You can write it in your own words or exactly, but when you write it in your own words, you don't have to change any meaning. If you write 1 Newton is that pressure, 0. I have told you many times, Newton is the son of force. So that way only you have to write. It is the related to force. So when you write Newton, it has to be 1 Newton is that force that produces an acceleration of 1 meter per second squared in a body of mass 1 kg. You can't change the unit and the corresponding physical terms. That has to be specific. Otherwise you will say I just wrote one word wrong and based on that one word teacher doesn't like me, so I lost marks. It is not like that. You can't write Newton is unit of pressure. It is unit of force. Same way for CGS unit, this has been asked. SI unit, CGS unit, define and relation. So all this has been asked in past papers. So if you are going to define it in terms of CGS unit, you will write force as MA. Now force in CGS is dyne, mass is gram, and you have acceleration is centimeter per second squared. So 1 dyne is that force which produces an acceleration of 1 centimeter per second squared in a body of mass 1 gram. Simple, write it in your own words. Think and write with the correct physical quantity and unit. Now relation between SI and CGS unit of force. Now what is the relation between that? You have to start with the formula. And first we will write everything in SI. 1 Newton is 1 kg into 1 meter per second squared. Now the left hand side remains this way, whereas the right hand side I convert it into CGS, corresponding CGS. 1 kg becomes 1000 gram and 1 meter per second squared becomes 1 meter is 100 centimeter per second squared. So 3 and 2, 5 zeros, so 10 raised to 5 gram centimeter per second squared. So you get 1 Newton, this gram centimeter per second squared is dyne. So 1 Newton is 10 raised to 5 dyne. This relation has been asked in the boards for 2 marks. It is very important. So today we will stop there, and next time we will see some examples based on Newton's second law, and then we will see sums based on Newton's second law. So you are supposed to write all this in your long books. Make sure that this is all written, and as I told you, we will be deleting the videos as per the messages that I am sending. So the videos will not be there forever. It will be deleted as per the information that is being sent in your WhatsApp group. So copy it time to time. Don't leave it thinking that it will be there in June when your school is going to do it. No, it won't be there, and we can't upload it. We have limited space in the server. We can't keep putting more videos, and every time you have to upload and remove and everything, you have to pay money for it. So that is why it is not possible if even you ask. So copy it regularly and write it down, and keep a check on the messages sent in WhatsApp group. Bye. Have a safe time.